The monsoon rains have caused tremendous havoc and damage in Pakistan. Floods caused by monsoon rains and melting glaciers have killed at least 1,128 people, including 340 children, and injured more than 1,700 people, displaced 364,000 people, affected 33 million people and lost $10 million in Pakistan. In August 2022, 6 military officers were killed in a helicopter crash during flood relief operations across Pakistan. The country's National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, added that 119 people had died and 71 were injured in the past 24 hours. Pakistan's Minister of Climate Change Sherry Rehman said the flooding was unprecedented and the worst humanitarian disaster in history. Officials say at least 700,000 homes have been destroyed by flooding caused by intense heavy rains across Pakistan. Several humanitarian organizations operating in 52 countries have distributed tents, food and supplies to residents in several rural areas of Pakistan. Yasrab Shah, director of fundraising for the charity Hysan Green, said about 33 million people or 15% of Pakistan's population had been affected by the terrible flash floods. Everyone said the aftermath of the disaster had become a large-scale crisis, and this was the extent of its devastation. This is a major disaster, and that is why I am not surprised the Pakistani government has declared a national disaster. We are overwhelmed, everyone affected says they are starving, haven't eaten for days. With significant infrastructure damage, Shah said the charity's biggest challenge was getting help for those in Pakistan's most rural areas. Sometimes, their aid workers offer the first aid that only a few communities see, he said. The Shah has asked for more help funding their work in Asia. We are not funded by any government agency, we are funded by ordinary donors on the street, and we urgently need people to come forward and show the outpouring of donations to their brothers and sisters in Pakistan. Meanwhile, international aid has reached in Pakistan on Monday, August 29, 2022, as parts of the military and volunteers desperately try to evacuate thousands of people stranded by widespread flooding fueled by monsoon rains of deadly monsters, cargo planes from Turkey and the United States. The Arab Emirates embarked on an international trip to help the impoverished nation, landing on Sunday in Islamabad carrying tents, food, and other necessities. Several trucks carrying tents, food and water arranged by Pakistan were also dispatched to various parts of the country by the National Disaster Management Agency for tens of thousands of flood victims. The aid came from countries that pledged to help Pakistan overcome the crisis after officials called for international help. The United Nations will launch an international call for Pakistani flood victims on Tuesday in Islamabad. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Monday said the rain was the heaviest Pakistan had seen in 3 decades. I see floodwaters everywhere I go in the last few days and even today, said Sharif in Charsadda, one of the cities devastated by the flash floods. So far, the torrential monsoon rains that triggered flash floods across the country have damaged nearly 1 million homes in Pakistan. Floods and rains have caused brutal devastation in Pakistan at a time when the country is facing one of its worst economic crises. On Monday, the IMF's executive board is expected to approve the much-awaited release of $1.7 billion for the Muslim-majority nation. Last week, the United Nations said in a statement that it had allocated $3 million to UN aid agencies and their partners in Pakistan to respond to the floods. This money will be used for health, nutrition, food security and clean water services and sanitation in flood-affected areas, with a focus on the most vulnerable. According to scientists and Sherry Rehman, a Pakistani senator and the country's climate minister, Pakistan is experiencing heavy rains this year mainly due to climate change, which has also caused forest fires this year.